My name is Michael Romanelli. I am a retired New York City firefighter. My story I'm about to tell, without doubt, is the worst case of pension fraud against a New York City firefighter in the fire department's history. I will show the unimaginable great lengths that the fire department pension board members went through to deny me my line of duty disability pension. For 21 long years now, I have been in constant fight and asking for the fire department and the city of New York to correct their wrongdoing, which to this day they still refuse. The politics involving this multi-billion-dollar pension system so far is beyond approach. So far I have spent approximately $80,000 in legal fees. 5 separate law firms I retained all show pension fraud occurred in their writings. I also have spent approximately $20,000 in medical fees and $5,000 on typing fees and copying fees. I had 2 separate Brooklyn DA investigations where the DA's office concluded that my case was the worst case of pension fraud that Charles Guerra from the Rackets Bureau ever investigated. I will go into this later. I also had an FBI investigation out of New York that lasted approximately 1.5 years. The FBI visited my house 4 or 5 times and had hooked up a recording device. Even with the FBI at the end of their investigation, stated that they were over the top with fraud in handling my case. But the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn, Raza Moskoff, refused to prosecute because the Brooklyn DA covered up their findings in my case. DA Charles Hines was the former fire commissioner and the 1B medical board who committed fraud, contributes to his campaign fund. I had also reached out to many politicians who wrote multiple letters, approximately 80 letters, to the fire commissioners and the New York City Corporation Council, and asking to have my pension case reopened by the fire commissioner under the fire department fraud law 13377, called fraud or mistake. This law has no statute of limitations, and this law states, fire department law states, that when there is a fraud or mistake, the fire department board of trustees must correct that error and correct the pension to what he or she would be entitled to. Some of the politicians' names who fought for me included U.S. Senator Hillary Clinton, Governor George Pataki, U.S. Senator Alphonse D'Amato, Staten Island Bowl President Guy Molinari, Assemblywoman Catherine Nolan of Queens, Staten Island and Brooklyn State Senator Vincent Gentile, Public Advocate Mark Green, and Assemblyman for Brooklyn Barbero. Even with the support of these politicians, the mayor's office and the fire commissioner's office still refused to reopen my pension case and still turn a deaf ear. I had also reached out to many newspapers over the years that had written stories on me. I thought that I may get help in having my story told. And again, maybe the fire commissioner and the mayor would reopen my disability case. Again, I was wrong. The news articles included the New York Times, which is first page Metro section, 2 pages long, the New York Daily News, the New York Sun, the Chief Leader, 2 articles in the Chief Leader, the New York Post, 2 articles, front page, and the following day on the second page, which did a fraud story about my case. What was supposed to be a simple causation disability case, to this day, 21 years later, the fire department refuses to answer to, even though by law they are without a doubt required to. How could this happen? If the fire department and the city dares to deny that fraud occurred, then they should answer the simple question, what was the causation of Romanelli's disability that the fire department retired me on. They have no answer. My family and I have suffered all these years for a simple causation answer. I was injured in an arson fire in Brooklyn, New York. I took a bad fall on my Scott air tank. In this abandoned synagogue fire that had 3 floors of fire, when my body slammed down, landed on my Scott air tank, I injured discs in my neck and back. At the time of my fall, we were ordered off the fire floor because there was concern the floor might collapse. An ambulance was called to take me to the hospital. The ambulance report, which I have here, was never read by the pension board. It states I was complaining of neck and back pain with tingling in both hands and in my fingers in both hands. I later remained under the fire department's care for my line of duty injuries until I retired. In fact, the chief fire department medical officer, in a rare one-of-a-kind decision, found me unfit for any duty. In a 3-man medical board dated 3/8/1990. Due to my line of duty neck and back injuries, and under his orders, I remained on medical leave for the next approximately 994 days until I retired from multiple disc injuries and cervical and lumbar radiculopathy concluded by this 3-man medical board report. This is the March 8, 1990 3-man medical board report, signed by the chief medical officer. On the second page, if you notice, it says neck and back injuries. Here is a false copy of the same report dated March 8, 1990. That the fire commissioner didn't sign, and if you notice over here, it says cervical lumbar sacral discogenic. It stands for discogenic disease, to relate my injury to an old injury. This was a false, altered report. Not one medical examination report ever stated at any time that my injuries were not the result of the fire. In fact, approximately 70 doctors all confirmed causation to my injuries, and the fire department's own doctors showed I never had a neck or back injury in my previous medical examinations before the fire department accident. These were their own fire department doctors. But even with a clear-cut case, this was not going to stop what was about to happen. The 3 civilians working on the pension board were about to torpedo my disability pension. The names of these 3 workers are Mary O'Sullivan, then the One-B Board Operational Secretary of the Fire Department Retirement 1B Pension Board. Her boss, Marlene Gold, Chairperson of the Fire Department Board of Trustees Retirement Pension Board. And also Madga Deconinck, a Fire Department Board of Trustee member from the New York City Corporation Council, who sat on the Board of Trustees and argued firefighters' disability cases. It became obvious I had made an enemy in the fire department. And the records do in fact prove this, and the extent that they went to commit the fraud is mind-boggling, to say the least. My medical reports were being altered. Also, my fire department computer printouts at the fire department's medical office were listing false injuries than what the actual medical examination reports stated. I later found out that the actual fire department retirement 1B medical certificates were not written by the retirement board doctors, of which I will show later.